After 8 long months of waiting, college football is back. Welcome to Midco Sports Network's Countdown to Kickoff. Hello, I'm Alex Heinert. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to preview all 4 FCS schools in the Dakotas, starting right here in Grand Forks, where the University of North Dakota enters the 2016 football season with high expectations. 3 years ago, Bubba Schweigert inherited a UND football program coming off back-to-back losing seasons for the first time since the mid-1980s. But in the short time since, the former UND defensive coordinator has turned things around, engineering a 2-win improvement in each of his first 2 campaigns in charge.
I really credit our coaching staff doing a good job with implementing the offense, defense, and special teams, but it's more about the culture too, just the guys doing the right thing day after day.
Despite going 7-4 last year, UND found themselves on the outside looking in at the FCS playoffs. That disappointment has only fueled the group to not leave their postseason fates up to the selection committee this time around.
It was tough, obviously, not making it in, but we're past that point, and I think a lot of guys realize that we should have made it in, and we have the potential and ability to go out and do that.
We all have a little chip on our shoulder from what happened last year, but again, we just have to focus on what we came to do, and we're going to start fresh and play physical, play smart, and just get things done this year.
The return of 16 starters has UND poised to do just that, with All-American running back John Santiago leading the way. The 5'9" speedster from the Twin Cities exploded on the scene last year as a true freshman to lead the Big Sky in rushing and all-purpose yards.
We think John's a proven player, and we think he can get better, and that's what we love about him. He gets out here and he works hard every day to get better.
When I step on the field, I'm not going to leave any doubt for when I come off the field. I want to leave everything out there and play my heart out every time I touch the field.
There's no doubt that Santiago's the feature back, but fellow true sophomore Brady Oliveira and Wyoming transfer Oscar Neverman will both see their share of touches moving forward. Under center, Keaton Studsrud made the quarterback position his own during his sophomore season, leading UND to a 7-2 mark in games he featured in last year. Now a team captain as a junior, Studsrud's improved ability to read defenses, combined with the return of deep threat Clive Georges, possession receiver Luke Stanley, and a handful of new talent in the fold at wideout and tight end, could allow for more offensive balance in 2016.
We got to be better in the passing game, and we've got to continue to make strides in the run game, but we felt like if we're going to make a jump, it has to be in the pass game, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
The only area of offensive uncertainty for North Dakota is up front, where left tackle A.J. Stockwell is the only returning starter from a group that helped the Fighting Hawks finish 3rd in the Big Sky in rushing in 2015. After graduating 3 all-conference performers, the rate at which the new-look offensive line gels together will be a major factor in the team's success.
So far, they're doing a great job. I think they've made really good improvements mentally and physically. So just with more repetition, they'll get better and better.
On defense, UND has to replace all-conference middle linebacker and current Atlanta Falcon Will Rattel. Big shoes to fill, but it's a job the team is ready to tackle together.
Losing a guy like Will Rattel is going to be huge to replace, but the guys we got coming back are pretty good players, and next guy up has got to be ready to go.
It'll be a little bit more by committee. I think we got guys that are capable. It's just a matter now of getting them out there and building some confidence through reps and watching them play.
Rattel might be gone, but 9 starters do return from a group that led the Big Sky in rush defense and finished 2nd in total yards allowed last season. Some of the names to watch for include 2015 All-Conference safety and new team captain Cole Reyes.
Cole's an important part for us. He's got some God-given talents, he's got ability, and we need to keep him on the field.
Alongside Reyes, senior Zach Arnell looks to have fully recovered from a potential career-ending ankle injury last year, and his return should shore up a secondary that struggled at times last season.
He's getting comfortable again. He had a pretty gruesome injury, so it's good to see him getting back. He looks good. I'm comfortable with him back there. It's good to have him back.
Also back in the fold are all Big Sky outside linebacker Brian Labatt, 2 corners who started a combined 19 games a year ago in Dion Harris and Tyus Carter, and a defensive line that might be the deepest of any position on the team.
There's really good competition there, and guys are doing a good job day in and day out, and we feel good about what we can put on the field in the D-line.
On special teams, junior place kicker Reed Taubenheim is back after hitting over 75% of his field goals last season, while the competition for the starting job at punter is still ongoing with a week remaining before the season opener at Stony Brook on September 1st. Coming up after the break, Countdown to Kickoff continues from Fargo, where Brian Shawn will check in on the Bison's quest for a 6th straight national title.
This UND Countdown to Kickoff segment was presented by Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back. I'm Brian Shawn here in Fargo as North Dakota State tries to build on their 5th consecutive national championship. The Bison return plenty of experience on both sides of the ball, and head coach Chris Kleiman saying our message isn't going to change.
We've got a long ways to go, and what you did yesterday is great, but it pales in comparison to what you can do today. And 2015 was dynamite. This is a new season, a new team, and our goal is the same as it always is. It will be and has been for a long time.
North Dakota State has the luxury of returning 8 starters on a defense that gave up just 36 points in 4 playoff games last season. That includes all 3 linebackers, led by first-team All-American Nick DeLuca.
I think it gives us a confidence factor, and just knowing that there's not that question mark over us like there was last year. And as we got better each game as a unit, and by the end of the year we were playing our best football, and we're just trying to continue off of that and continue to get better.
The defensive line also has a lot of depth across the board, returning starting defensive ends Brad Ambrosius and first-team All-Valley selection Greg Menard. Defensive tackles Nate Tangway, Aaron Steidel, and Grant Morgan also have experience up front on what should be a talented group.
At the end especially, we talked about how we didn't lose any guys last year, and that's a really big plus. And so in camp so far, we've been able to fast forward a lot of things and just focus on our technique stuff more than the mental stuff, or focus on Charleston Southern, or just worry less about the mental things and worry more about the physical things and the technique and stuff like that.
The biggest question mark defensively for the Bison is in the secondary. Safeties Trey Dempsey and Robbie Grimsley return to anchor the back end, but the loss of corners C.J. Smith and Jordan Champion leaves some big shoes to fill. Sophomore Jalen Allison has emerged to take over one spot, but there is very little experience behind him. Jalon Wimbush, redshirt Dom Davis, and transfer Darren Kelly will all be counted on to step up.
We have some needs, especially at the corner position. I'm really impressed with Robbie and Trey at the safety spot. You can tell that they've played a year together as well as a spring together, and I like our backups there with Bachmeyer and Jackson Brown. I think those guys are doing a nice job.
You never know how the group's going to turn out at the end of the season, man. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a rhythm going, though, and I'm not putting no limit on how good I think we could be, because I think there's no limit to how great we could get.
On the offensive side, sophomore quarterback Easton Stick steps in as the full-time starter after leading the team to an 8-0 record last season when Carson Wentz went down to injury. The game experience accelerated Stick's progress, and now he's comfortable and ready heading into year number 2.
Game reps are, it's hard to put a value on those. They're extremely important. It's something you can't simulate. As much stuff as we do at practice and double rep, things like that, those are awesome. But until you're out there and really understand how it works on a game day, those are kind of invaluable. So I feel really comfortable and happy that, it worked out the way it did.
With Easton, it's just him getting more and more comfortable in our system. And Coach P and Coach Hedberg, putting more on his plate at the line of scrimmage and extending the playbook. We're 3 days into it, but we have a lot of our playbook in because he can handle everything.
The Bison will once again rely on its massive offensive line to control things up front and keep drives alive. NDSU has most of its line intact from a year ago that averaged nearly 240 yards a game on the ground and gave up just 16 sacks in 15 games. They'll have to replace All-American Joe Haig at left tackle, but expectations for the group are high.
Some of the young guys need to learn, but the young guys that have come in, I feel like they're kind of more ahead than where I was at when I first came in. And I think that we're going to do just fine.
NDSU's deepest position may be at tailback. First-team All-Valley selection King Frazier leads a group that includes versatile senior Chase Morlock, sophomore Lance Dunn, and the electrifying Bruce Anderson, who made big impacts as a true freshman in the backfield and on special teams.
When people try to do their studying on us and watch film, they honestly don't know what we can do. We have all these guys that can do different things, so it just makes us dangerous, really. We've all been working hard, Easton's, y'all gonna see. In the line, they're doing their thing, and we're just ready to rock and roll.
A tough schedule awaits for the 5-time defending national champions, including non-conference home games against 2 top 10 teams, a road game at Iowa, and a challenging Missouri Valley Conference schedule. but NDSU has a tradition they want to keep.
With those guys that were here before us, it makes us want to do that much more, to give back to them, and it also will make us better in the long run.
North Dakota State starts its drive for a 6th consecutive national championship here at the Fargo Dome against Charleston Southern on August 27th. When we come back, we'll check in with Tom Nieman as he'll preview the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Stay with us.
This SDSU Countdown to Kickoff segment is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and Service First Federal Credit Union.
Welcome back to Midco Sports Network's Countdown to Kickoff. South Dakota State will start the season with a couple of changes on offense, a couple on defense, and a huge change in home field advantage. The Jacks will start play here in the new Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium with the home opener against Drake on September 10th.
I remember the first day of fall camp, we all just walked out and we were just like, whoa, this is crazy. It was almost unreal that we actually had this amazing facility provided for us.
Just looking around, seeing how it looks empty, I can't imagine how it's going to be full, and just thinking about that gives us a little more motivation and a little more juice.
This home schedule, we want to etch it in history. I mean, it's the opening of a new stadium. We want to be special this year as a football team.
Well, the chances of going 6-0 at home this season are actually pretty good, while road games at North Dakota State and Illinois State and Northern Iowa will determine if the Jacks can put up their first ever 9-win regular season. So how are they going to get it done? Start with the defense. The Jackrabbits led the Missouri Valley last year, allowing just 16 points per game in conference contest. And despite a few notable departures, the defense should be salty again. Up front, Jared Bloom and Cole Langer and Kellen Solik and Shane Gottlob and Blake Whitseller all back on the defensive line. It is a very veteran core.
I think the kids are playing fast. They understand what's going on. So that's been, we forget, I think, what they do in the summer. Having the S-Jack and the facilities in the winter, we're so far ahead.
Well, Jesse Bobbitt and Dallas Brown are returning starters at linebacker. Dalton Cox and Cody Hazlett have experience there, and redshirt freshman Christian Rosaboom and Jessup Workman are also part of this talented group.
Do your 111, do your job, because that's what it takes. You do your job, and after you do your job, you're going to make the play. And you count on each other. That's a huge thing in football, especially on defense, being accountable for your teammate next to you, the guy next to you, that he's going to do his job, and that's just all about trust.
At safety, the Jacks are nicked up, and that's a good thing. Both starters are back, Nick Farina and Nick Mears. And if the question is at cornerback, the answers are Jordan Brown, who played last year as a freshman, and Zy Mosley, a redshirt freshman from the Twin Cities.
There's scheme stuff, there's schematic stuff that they need to understand, and I put more on those guys than maybe some corners because I want them to understand the entire defense.
Now to the Jackrabbit offense, and there is Jake Winicki, an All-American, and some promising young guys at wide receiver. There is a slew of running backs, and at quarterback, there's going to be competition for the starting spot between Taryn Christian and Zach Lujan pretty much all season long.
We're still great friends. Competition brings out the best in people, and I think it raises the level of our whole offense, our whole team. So we're just embracing it and competing every day.
As Zach says, competition brings out the best in people, and I believe that too. So whoever wins the job or whoever's playing, the coaches are putting us in the right position to get us a win.
Well, Zach Lujan started 8 games last year. The Jacks won 5 of those. Taryn Christian started 4 games. The Jacks won 3 of those. It is truly a toss-up. At wide receiver, Jake Winicki is back for what could be a record-setting season. He needs 6 touchdowns and 746 yards receiving to set new Jackrabbit career records in those categories.
We don't ever want to maintain. What we're always talking about in our room is every day coming out and be better than we were the day before. And that's what he's consistently done.
To complement Winicki, the Jacks are counting on senior Connor Landberg and Alex Wilde, a sophomore from Brandon Valley. And he's not a wide receiver, but he plays like one. Dallas Goddard is back at tight end. He had 26 catches last year and was named first team All-Missouri Valley Conference. At running back, the Jacks are going to have plenty of options.
Those guys are really working hard, man. The old guys, they know exactly what to do, and they bringing the young guys along, man. We have some really good young guys stepping up from the spring and doing some really good things.
Brady Mengarelli led the team in yards and touchdowns a year ago. Isaac Wallace will be a sophomore. He'll probably get time at running back and as a kick and punt returner. Kyle Paris turned into the go-to guy toward the end of last season for the Jackrabbits. And all of those skill guys are going to rely on the 5 fat guys up front.
You gotta be mean, you gotta be tough, you gotta bring energy, but it's also, there's a lot more thinking to it than you would think. I mean, you can't just go out there and not think and be tough because you're gonna mess up.
Right now, the first 5 is Ona Sorgi at center, Charlie Harmon at left tackle, former defensive lineman Tiano Pupangitoa at left guard, returning starter Matt Clark at right guard, and 6'8", 320-pound senior Nick Carr at right tackle.
That whole first group, again, we're pretty excited about all those guys, and we think we can make a big jump, and they're taking a little pride in being improved this year and trying to make a difference for our team being better.
Well, the South Dakota Showdown Series is here in Brookings this year. South Dakota State will host South Dakota in the second to last game of the regular season. And when we come back, Jay Elsen is in Vermillion with a look at the Coyotes when we return on Countdown to Kickoff.
This USD Countdown to Kickoff segment is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and your Core Trust Bank.
Welcome back to Countdown to Kickoff. I'm Jay Elsen. Well, athletics as a whole at the University of South Dakota will have a very different look this fall, and the same can be said about the football program. For starters, there's a new guy calling the shots. Bob Nielsen, who replaced the retired Joe Glenn in December, is conducting his first fall camp with the Coyotes and likes the way things have gone to this point.
You'd always like to be further along. That's one of the things I think that if you got to continue to push and drive through the preseason. We're making progress. We've got a huge test to start out the year down at New Mexico, and we've got a ways to go before that game yet.
The installation of Nielsen's trademark up-tempo offense has been the primary focus since the spring, and the progress in terms of both pace and communication has been measurable. One of the big questions is who will be running that offense. The Coyotes have a legitimate 3-way competition at quarterback. Ryan Sager is the incumbent and boasts the most experience. The senior from Heartland, Wisconsin started all 11 games for South Dakota last season, completing 55% of his passes for just under 2,000 yards and 12 touchdowns against just 7 interceptions. He was recently named a team captain for the second consecutive year. Chris Strevler transferred into the program from the University of Minnesota. He played a little quarterback and a little wide receiver for the Gophers, but came to USD with hopes of sticking under center. Coaches love his athleticism. Finally, there's Austin Simmons. He's the smallest guy of the group physically, but he's got massive potential. The redshirt freshman has great feet and a big-time arm, making him a prototypical dual threat. All 3 have performed well in camp, which has made an already difficult decision that much tougher.
We love the competition at every position. Quarterback's obviously the magnifying glass position, but it's something that we get excited about because it really has elevated all 3 of their play. And one guy does great one day, and then all 3 do great the next day, and then there's a little hiccup here or there within them, and they pick each other up. But what's cool is their competitiveness between the lines. They worry about themselves instead of worrying about what the other guys are doing.
Regardless of which guy earns the job, they'll enjoy working with some pretty talented targets. Junior Brant Van Rukel, who led the team in both receiving yards and touchdowns in 2015, headlines a much more athletic, albeit inexperienced group of pass catchers. The Coyotes also look to be in a pretty good spot at running back, with both Trevor Bama and Michael Frederick returning. Bama averaged 6 yards per carry with 6 touchdowns as a junior, but saw his season cut to just 6 games due to an arm injury.
Feel good, feel healthy. I feel completely fine, ready to go for the season. Strongest, fastest I've ever been, so I'm excited about it.
Paving the way for Bama and company will be an offensive line that's something of a work in progress. The Coyotes do have a handful of guys with starting experience, including Niall Banks, who's transitioning to center after 2 seasons at left guard.
He had a good offseason, did a nice job this summer, worked hard, took a lot of snaps, and that's not a natural position for some offensive linemen, especially if you've never snapped before.
Defensively, the biggest concern once again involves the big guys. The defensive line was hit hard by departures following last season, with longtime starters Drew Iddings and Nick Jacobs graduating, and last year's MBFC Freshman of the Year Andrew Van Ginkel transferring out of the program. Those are some huge holes to fill in terms of both size and statistics.
The Coyotes did address the area in recruiting, but there's no getting around it. South Dakota will be depending on some young guys to contribute.
Sometimes guys make fun of me for we're the dog pound, and what does that stand for? And that's a bunch of shop wreckers. And so if we can develop that 2 deep of starters, sometimes maybe a third every now and then, we're going to do good things, and that's where we're moving towards.
With 2 veteran safeties, Tyson Graham and Jacob Warner, the South Dakota secondary looks to have a strong foundation. Graham, who picked off 4 passes as a junior, is a preseason All-MVFC selection that's drawing interest from the NFL. Another area with questionable depth is cornerback. Junior Adam Harris is far and away the most experienced, but has just 5 career starts at the position. On the other side, the frontrunner looks to be converted wide receiver Danny Rambo. JUCO transfer Doug Lewis, who's one of the few others that's played it down at the collegiate level, is also in the mix.
It's a concern, initially, but, you get the reps, you coach off film during meetings, and you get better each day.
The Bob Nielsen era will officially kick off Thursday, September 1st at New Mexico. As for us here at Midco SN, we've got another action-packed season in front of us. We'll wrap things up with a look at which games we'll be televising in 2016 after this. Midco SN will broadcast 16 football games this fall, starting September 3rd with Northern State Augustana. That month also features the renewed rivalry between USD and UND. With a total of 7 games on the schedule, October will be our busiest month, but we'll save 2 of the best for last. The annual South Dakota Showdown Series matchup is slated for November 12th in Brookings, while NDSU is set to visit Vermillion the following week. Enjoy the season, everybody.